Hello everyone. Just letting you guys know that this story is the first part of a 6-part series. I wanted to record more parts and get a longer story up for Halloween. However, my finance and time won't allow for a project of that scale. Plus, my editor is facing his own challenges and I believe it'll be unfair to him to put such a large project onto him after not having worked on anything for such a long time. So, I plan to take baby steps and slowly but surely begin working and regain my schedule of uploads on the channel. There's no promises of large uploads, but I can promise that I'll begin uploading every Wednesday once again. If you enjoy the narrations and would like to show extra support, you can either become a member of my Patreon linked below, or you can come and watch me live on Twitch where I stream every day and show support on there. With that being said, please enjoy the story. You know how we say that we don't really know why humans need to sleep? I mean, we do to an extent, but it's still a massive scientific work in progress. The body uses time sleeping to do a ton of wild stuff, from healing the body to compartmentalizing memories. The only thing is, that's all we've found so far. Of course, the best way to study what something does is by studying what happens in the absence of it. The longest on record is 18 days, and by that time the cognitive function for most people isn't too great. Granted, this was all done without using any kind of performance enhancers, so to speak. I got the job offer weeks ago. A sleep deprivation study sponsored by the US government. Ethical? Absolutely not. But they gave me a proposition I couldn't refuse, to use the old cliche. You see, I'm genetically predispositioned to a prior disease called fatal familial insomnia. Right now, I haven't shown any signs of it, and on average it doesn't start to onset until around 50, so I've got a few good years left before things go to hell for me. So, while I can, I've dedicated myself to research into finding a cure for prion diseases, in some desperate hope that I can fix my own genetic fuck-up. No luck so far, but they recruited me with the promise of access to CRISPR technology to further work on genetic modifications, and I wasn't passing that up. Even if I can't save myself in time, if I can save people down the line from the hell I saw my mother go through, the hell that awaited me whenever the fucking PATREON decided it was my time. So, the basic thesis of the experiment is that we have 5 subjects, all people that were made to disappear by good old Uncle Sam. We weren't given any previous information or names, just these 5 people, literally assigned numbers as their name, so we couldn't figure out who they were. These people would be studied as they were deprived of sleep, using any methods possible to make sure they stayed conscious. These methods would range from drugs, rewards, torture, or anything that would prevent sleep. Again, it wasn't ethical, but I'm doing this to hopefully save some innocent people down the line. Myself, 2 other researchers, and 1 guard to each of the subjects were given a modestly sized lab environment to work with, and amenities for non-subjects were pretty nice. We had beds, a full kitchen complete with a cook who came in for lunch and dinner, and entertainment for those of us who are not currently working. Good thing, because this place was our home for the foreseeable future, until this experiment was over. The subjects had things a lot less comfortable than we did. They were kept in a common room with individual rooms that split off from it, consisting of bathrooms, showers, and various entertainment options. I know given people so awful they were erased by the government doesn't seem like a great thing, but we want to keep their minds stimulated to keep them awake. There would be meals brought in at regular intervals, all with the sufficient nutrition needed to thrive. Every single room was monitored by no less than 3 cameras, even the bathrooms, so we could consistently watch on every subject. In addition, there was a viewing room in front of the main common area, one-way glass allowing us to directly observe. From here on, everything is presented from my daily research recordings for a full picture of how things develop. This is the personal record of Dr. Michael A. Ripley, kept for my own future research and records. Day 1. Everything is going smoothly so far. I met my fellow researchers, Philip and Taryn, early on, and we determined how we would split the work and observation. 8 hours shift each. Taryn would take the midnight to 8 a.m., I would take over until 4 p.m., then Philip would finish out the night before Taryn came back to cover for him. It was easy enough, and we would have at least 2 guards keeping watch with us at all times in case the situation arose. Taryn's shift came and went without incident. The subjects were gathered around one of the tables, folding chairs set up for seats. That was the most comfort they had though. There was no beds, only a hard metal cot on the walls with no padding or pillow. I'm assuming that's what they were accustomed to though, because nobody was really complaining about it. Subject 1 is a male in his mid-20s. Dark hair, scrawny, pale as hell. Looked like a school shooter stereotype. 2 is an older man, early 50s, balding and covered in some questionable tattoos. We weren't given any info on what he did, but you don't get that many swastikas permanently inked on your body by making good life decisions. 3 is in his 40s. He had a kind face, wry smile that looked like he would crack a dad joke at any time. Honestly, a pretty jovial guy, probably the only one who I have no idea how he could have ended up here. 4 looked like Jeffrey Dahmer, reborn into the digital age. I'm assuming he's in for similar acts as Dahmer too. Hearing him talk over the monitor gave me the creeps, just monotone and uncaring. There was nothing behind his eyes. 5 looked like the American Psycho type. Wealthy, no human empathy or consideration for life, and that Tom Cruise look where every little move was rehearsed to best manipulate anyone he interacted with. I swear I saw him staring into the camera a few times, right at me, and he would just smile. None of them knew what the experiment was. As of now, the sleep deprivation methods weren't in play. Being so early, it wouldn't be until near the middle of my shift that things needed a little push. 2 was yawning, and he said that he was going to his bunk for a nap. So I hit the dial in his room to make sure that didn't happen. There was no control over the lighting on their end, so I dialed up the intensity of the fluorescence. Then I activated a small hidden speaker behind his bed, playing a frequency that would disrupt any attempt at sleep for a while. The others stayed in the commons area, bullshitting about why they were here. Nothing of note happened otherwise. Day 2. They're getting irritable, to be expected, considering that they're now hitting over 24 hours without sleep. So far, the light and the sound methods of deprivation have worked fine, with nobody wise to what's happening yet. I do believe the irritability will lead to tensions by tomorrow. 4 is beginning to exhibit paranoia, frequently looking around, speaking to himself under his breath. More than once I've seen him stare directly into the camera, though I'm not sure if he realized it was there. It creeped me out nonetheless. Around noon on my shift, 1 began speaking to 3. I've transcribed their conversation below.
Do you see them?
Sorry, who? I can see all of us in here, but nothing else.
The kids.
Excuse me?
They told me what you did.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Sure you do. How many were there?
Please leave me alone.
You're the reason why I'm here. Why should I leave you alone?
At this point, I called in one of the guards, Murray, just in case something started to go down in there. 3, despite his kinder, laid-back attitude, was definitely starting to get on edge. 1 did leave him alone though, walking over to his own room and sitting on the metal cot, staring at the wall for the next 2 hours with a smile on his face, like he was totally zoned out. I'm still not sure what any of them did, so I don't know if 1 was actually onto something or not. 3 was certainly shaken by it though, sitting alone and not saying anything for the rest of the day. Eventually, he went to his room, laying on the cot while tossing and turning. From the notes Philip left, he's been complaining of the others being too loud, saying they're shouting when everyone is talking, in whispers at best. Likely an early sign of prolonged sleep deprivation. 2 and 4 have been oddly friendly, though I'm not entirely sure why. I've heard them briefly talk about their jobs in their early life. 2 was some sort of construction contractor, while 4 specialized in industrial chemicals. Of course, that's before or during whatever got them here. I'll keep an eye on how their relationships develop. I expect many of them to break down after a certain point. Day 3. Today was relatively calm with barely anything of note happening. The subjects have begun to isolate over 48 hours without sleep, each staying to their own room or corner of the main area. I've noticed 4 increasingly talking to himself, more hurried and louder than previously. Most of it was nonsense, sounding like the paranoid ramblings of some budget Alex Jones. Subject 5 is the one that's been most interesting to watch. He's going along with this just fine, not even a sign of irritability or paranoia. All he's done is sit down in his own corner, just watching the others. Occasionally he would give a smirk, but for the most part he just remained quiet here. Day 4. They've begun to realize what's happening. 3 approached 5 asking him when the last time he slept was. Upon realizing it was before they were sent in here, they started to ask the others. 1 said he was awake for 72 hours prior to arriving, suffering from insomnia as is. So I guess we had a little head start there. Everyone else agreed they were going on day 4 though, referencing the clock and calendar on the wall to be sure. 2 began to get irritable, screaming to be let out and to be told what's going on. 3 tried to calm him, telling him it was likely we were being monitored. 4 started to search the entire place for cameras, though he didn't succeed. 1 was in his room, already deep in the throes of paranoia and whispering that they're coming for him. From what I could gather, he's seeing hallucinations. At one point, he was pointing at the door, screaming at something on the other side, telling it that it wasn't welcome in his room. It sounded like he was rebuking a vampire, telling it that it didn't have permission. At some point, 2 started screaming at him to shut up, the screams only getting louder as the rebuke from 1 turned into pleas with whatever was there to leave him alone. His cries were haunting, legitimately terrified of whatever the sleep deprivation was making him see. During all of this, 5 remained in his corner, watching silently. He had by far done the least in his whole time here, but he had been awake this entire time. From my best guess, he was disassociating into some possible type of meditation, perhaps relieving some of his sleep deficiency. Day 5. Our methods to date for sleep deprivation are starting to become null. 2 has nodded off while 4 was going into a state of microsleeps to compensate. We upped it to the next phase, inducing amphetamines through their meals. There was a very noticeable burst in alertness from everyone, though some started to display signs of what's commonly called cabin fever. 4 began to scratch at his skin, determined that something was trying to get out of his body. Guards were on standby to assess, Before long, he had gouged long lines in his arms, blood beginning to ooze from the wounds. Murray was sent in as medical, another guard named Greg accompanying to ensure the other subjects complied.
Why are you injuring yourself?
Because I need to let it out.
Let what out?
My soul.
Your soul? Why do you need to let your soul out?
Because it's trapped. It wants out before it's stuck inside forever.
All right, buddy. Let's get you wrapped up to stop the bleeding.
Mind telling me why the hell we're in here? I haven't slept since stepping through that door.
You don't deserve an answer.
Tell me what's going on. Calm the fuck down, man. No, you don't tell me what to do. I got given rights to my life.
You don't have rights anymore.
After he left the room, Murray gave the rundown of the current mood in there. The smell is terrible, according to him, and up close, everyone looks ragged. Apparently, the look in Four's eyes was that of a dead man, and Murray was a former Special Forces, so I'll take his word on that. Philip told me that Four was still trying to claw at his skin during the night, and the guards eventually had to go in and forcibly restrain him to keep him from doing any lasting damage. Since then, he's just begged for someone to kill him so that his soul can leave. I don't know what he means by that, but the feeling of dread it snuck into my gut is something that scares me. There's a foreboding here that I don't really like. Day 6. I'm shaken, to put it lightly. Subject 1 at this point has been awake for the longest of them all. At least 9 days, give or take some hours. His onset of symptoms has been somewhat of a litmus test for the others, getting an idea of what could change. I fear, though, that we are only just getting to the worst of the symptoms. We got around 2 in the afternoon today when 1 went into his room, sitting on the metal cot. Everyone else was isolating, with 2 walking around and screaming ever so often in anger. 3 was in his room, rocking back and forth under the bed while apologizing under his breath. 4 was near catatonic in his room, staring at the wall. Meanwhile, 5 was just going about his business. He was the only one to keep up some semblance of hygiene at this point, as the others hadn't showered since arriving. Pretty sure I saw some of them not even cleaning up after using the toilet, so I can't imagine the smell in that room. From what Murray told me yesterday, it made him want to gag. I was recording amphetamine dosages, making sure we weren't going to overdose anyone when I heard my name. At first, I assumed it was Murray checking to see if I wanted anything from the kitchen. When I looked around and didn't find him though, my name was spoken again, this time from over the sound feed. 1 was staring at the camera, addressing me directly as he gazed right into me through the monitor.
Why are you doing this, Michael?
I didn't respond. I couldn't. There's no way he could know who I am. No way he could know my name. They didn't even know we were here in the first place. As far as they knew, there was just a guard surveillance room behind the one-way glass.
This won't help you. You can't be cured.
At this point, I'm in the midst of an anxiety attack, full-blown panic and pressing the little call button I had for the guards. Murray came shuffling in, asking if he had to go back into the shit pit again, as he called it now. He saw me in the midst of a meltdown, 1 still speaking to me directly.
You'll die screaming. You're lucky, though.
At that point, Murray took me out of the room, shouting for Philip to come and take over for a time. He sat me down in the small medical bay we had, stocked with typical EMS supplies, and gave me an anti-anxiety drug to try and get me to relax. Philip took over for the remainder of my shift, and into his. so I could go in bed and try to clear my mind. They believe that he was talking, but they were trying to give me rational reasons for what he was saying. He had been talking to himself, so maybe his name was Michael as well. Maybe it was just a hallucination of someone he knew previously. I was willing to accept any kind of rationalization at this point, but the dread was still sunk deep into my chest, telling me that wasn't the case. I'm gonna lay down now, but I wanted to record these notes while they were fresh in my mind. The medicine is making me feel drowsy,